everybody must be a millionaire. Well, you can't be a millionaire until you're a thousandaire. I mean, it's incredible to watch the madness of all that. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Well, you can't even behave well in the thousandaire class. So why talk about millionaire when you can't even basically save up $1,000 or $5,000?
Rick, good morning. Welcome to the Leader's Furnace. This is episode 10, I believe. 13.
Awesome. Yes.
So as we are jumping in, we were just talking a little bit before we got started. The whole purpose around the Leader's Furnace is that there are these illusions that have to be burned off. There's these different things that lies or myths that we live into. Laws and myths are something we've been talking about the last couple of episodes. But ultimately, there's just more and more illusions that people live into, like, oh, it'll get done. Somebody will do it. Somebody will pick that up. Somebody will serve the customer. There's the leaving it to other people, or the leaving it for another day, or the I'll remember it in my head. I'll just think through it, and maybe hopefully I'll remember the code or the list. We'll have 15, 20, 1 hour, 2 hour meetings, conversations, and we're like, I think I got it. It's all up here, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's all kinds of illusions up to this point. Over the 13 episodes that we've been in, we have gone through all kinds of different lies and illusions. Today, we really wanted to hit on one where I think there is a talking about it, and then there's a doing it perspective and mindset where people want to talk about the work. There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of information out there. And we'll just call it I for information. The illusion is, as long as I know the information or I can have more information, I'm good. But the problem is that there's actually a whole lot of relationship and experience that has to happen. REI is what we'll essentially found it on, which is relationship and experience is the work of people, and the technical aspect of everything that we're doing is the experience. And then there's a tiny little I for information at the end. And some people want to put that in a reverse order and be like, all information, I've got the information. Mm-hmm. Here's an amazing presentation. Here's an amazing idea. And people want to talk about it, but they don't want to be about it. They don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And so as we jump into that illusion, I imagine you've seen it a lot of different times. You've pretty much taught me that illusion, of being able to go, hey, pay attention to when people are talking, but there's not a lot of doing. What's going on there? People that want to dance around it in order to not jump into the work. How do you interact with that? How have you discovered that? What does that look like at PMI?
Well, as we spoke about it earlier, and it every day is kind of its own story. So there was a tribal story happening Tuesday and Monday of this week that relates to this, and also earlier you spoke of the lie, and it's like, my personality style, I use the word lie, but it's a bit harsh. It's just awareness, but it feels like a lie, and I think sometimes we have to call it a lie to make it a little bit of a harsh thing. But it's just living it out. I almost hate to use the word lie because it's like nobody actually means to do it quite like they're doing it. So we have to stop for a second and look at what's going on in the meeting. So we were having a meeting yesterday, and man, it was a great meeting, and man, we were smiling and high-fiving. The momentum seemed like it was there. But I got the feeling about halfway through it that it was going to be one of those high-five meetings, like high connectivity but low follow-up. Well, what good is that? I mean, I'd rather have a meeting that scores 100 on follow-up and then 1% on personality. But there it is. These things are all going on about, how good's the meeting? Do we feel good about it? Well, I don't know about you. The feeling good part of it's great, but the getting the work done matters the most. So we have to, as we go through it, kind of look around what's going on. Well, that was happening yesterday. And so I stopped the meeting, and it's like, man, it's like we got to be really careful right here about feeling good about everything we're talking about, because it doesn't feel like it's going to get done quite like the meeting tempo is happening. So I stopped it and kind of created an awareness. It's like, hey, let's just for a second make sure that we're going to be doing this, not just talking about it, because it felt too good and didn't feel like it would follow up well. And I think that's the illusion. So we stopped, and I said we need to make sure we need to document everything we say, because earlier you said, it's great to talk about it, or I'm going to remember it. Those are really bad things. Talking about it's one thing, trying to remember it's another. Yesterday was document all the thoughts. In Think and Grow Rich, it talks about thoughts are things. Well, everything we talked about was a thing. The problem was we kept adding things without putting it on our map, so to speak. And we kept going into happy, and it's going to be great. And eventually, it would be great in 3 years. I want it to be great in 3 months. I don't want it to be great in 3 years. We're going to get there. We always get to where we're going to go. But the question is how long does it take? So we stopped the meeting, talked about that a little bit. Everybody's like, oh my God, it was. Everybody kind of puckered up a little bit. I didn't mean for it to happen quite like that, but it did, and it was kind of an intense moment because the accountability kicked up a couple notches, but I needed it to. And then after that happened, I'm like, hey guys, I don't mean to, hurt anybody or to say we're not doing good. We just got to be really careful about feeling good about it and talking good about it, because ultimately it's the doing part of it. And then during the meeting, these things come up. We use word protectors, pilings. These are just such special people. During the meeting, one of the elements of it was something as simple as we're going to get a new fence at one of our facilities. And it's just a fence, and there's like 10 fence vendors. So I'm talking to one of our guys that's leading this, and he's like, "Hey, Rick," I said, "Hey, we're going to prepare to do the fence in July or August," and he's like, "Okay," and we re-quote everything. I'm like, "Well, who do you get your quotes from?" "Well, I got quotes from everybody," he said, "but I can't remember the guy's name, but and this is kind of a compliment to them, there's a guy at Hercules Fence locally, and I can't remember his name exactly, but it doesn't matter because he's going in my phone this morning as that guy, the guru." So my guy's talking about that guy, and he's like, "Well, yeah, that guy, and he was here, he was first one on site, he's very communicative, he gave us the best price, really thorough, always followed up." And I asked for his name. So that guy at Hercules Fence is the guy we want to become. And most people don't even think about that, because there was 10 guys or ladies that came and told us about the quotations. But the impression that one guy left, he left us with the impression that he wasn't a talker, that he would be a talker, but he also would be a rugged doer. That's the perfect balance, the talking, because he had the relationship part well, but sometimes the relationship part can sag in the doing part. And there it is. It's almost like all of us don't have both sides of that equation. But if you can get half of it in the communication part and half of it in the deeds and pull that together, you become the guy at Hercules Fence. So that guy at Hercules Fence said, we want to give him our money. It no longer is we want a fence. I want that guy in my life as a protector. I want his name in my phone. And from now on, he'll be like in position 1, although there's 10 positions, but that guy. Now think about it for a second. He might be at Hercules, but what if he leaves and goes somewhere else? He'll take that energy right there, that thing that he's selling something, and it didn't feel for sale. It felt wholesome, and I really liked it. So that, I was getting it from Chris, but the point of it is it's that person and that behavior. We want more of that in the meeting, where we're not overselling the words and not overselling the conversation about what it will be, but making sure that we feel like, there's a saying that says, once elected, stop campaigning. Okay, so once elected, stop campaigning. There's a point where you stop talking about it and start doing it. So.
Yeah. I don't want to lose the thread of stopping the talk and starting the doing. But just a thought as you are talking about the guy from Hercules. You're the client. He's the service provider. And yet as a service provider, as somebody who's providing a service, he has a lot of influence with you as the client. He's going into the phone as Hercules guru guy, right? And so that's the level of influence that's on the table for all of us who have clients, who are founders or who are salespeople or who are ops people, but we're actually serving somebody else, and the influence available. It's not just money. It's not just a transaction with that person. You're saying, hey, next time I need a fence, next time my friends need a fence, next time my farm needs a fence, I'm going to reach out to that guy because I'm sold on that guy. Yeah. And if he ends up selling, digging wells and water wells or whatever it is that he switches over to, we'll probably go with that guy because it's that guy who has the influence regardless of what he is currently providing.
He has the balance that most people don't have, because some people can do the building of it, the fence, and some people can do the selling of the fence. But the ultimate place where the charisma and the deeds meet is him. Yeah, because some people want to sell the charisma and they're really your friend and they're really your buddy, but you can kind of tell it's very salesy, which is not bad. And then you got the person that's kind of like that rough, tough foreman on the job who's a great doer but has no personality. It's so hard to get this right. It's that proper balance in the middle. So now I got me a new guru in my phone, and my phone's full of these people called gurus. They're position one protectors, and I want to give them my money. This is no longer a fence thing. Now it's, instead of it being it's a commodity, it's just give me a fence. You got money, get the hell out of here. It's going to be like, what's his name?
What do you call it? Your 1% or 2%?
1% club. Yeah, there's the 1% club. My buddy Tom's in the 1% club.
These are worth celebrating. Who are the people in your 1% club?
Oh, wow. So that, and especially with me having gone through the, sixes are not accidentally created. They people have done some things to them, so we're very careful about our relationships. But yeah, so Tom's in there, and a guy named Paul's in there.
Tom Noon, yeah.
Yeah, so Tom Noon's in there, and we struggled for forever with finding a person that was a financial person, and here it is again. There were plenty of people that were accounting or had CPA at their end of their name. But they aren't Tom. Tom is in a class of his own. He is, when he talks, you can tell he's done it. He's also been through full level combat. If trouble comes, he will be the steward of the trouble and not just send you an email. He's going to send you an email and say, did you get the email? Can I walk you through the mechanical pieces of the email? And you're like, that right there, again. So Tom, another accounting type of person is Paul DiNardo, just blessed. It took 70 people to get each one of them. We scrubbed through 70 to get to these people. Now that I'm 64, I've kind of got this awesome list of piling / protectors. So PMI's got a lot of protectors in it. It has 40 out of 200 are protectors. What that means is they not only do they work here, but they're not thinking about their paycheck. They're thinking about taking care of Rick, and that really matters to me. Now that's 40 out of 200 again, 80-20 rule. But so yeah, there's just a bunch of these in my life. I got a new one now with a fence, and I'm super excited. I got to be a fence buddy. Some people would say, "Wow, your life must suck." Okay, no, it's all about having these people that can take care of things for you. And the one way to do that is the selfish way, saying, "Hey, I got me a fence guru. I'm going to use him to get me a fence. I'm going to meet this guy. I'm not going to just issue the order for the fence. I want to meet. I want to meet this guy face to face and see what he's all about. And there's a good chance he's got a travel story. Behind the scenes is how did this guy show up this special? There's probably something back there. A trailer park, dysfunctional family, who knows, maybe really strict parents. All I'm saying is whatever it is, I'd like to hear his story.
To you, these are all leaders worth following. So Tom or Paul, leaders worth following, you are willing to follow them, right? Fence guy. You're willing to follow that fence guy. His whatever he's going to provide or talk through or present, you're going to follow. Any of the 40 on your company, they're leaders worth following. You're also going to follow them. I mean, you're serving one another in this process. And so as we talk about leaders worth following, it is this, hey, they have an it factor to them. That there's a talking about it, and then there's a doing it. And the illusion is that if we just talk about it, that's enough, right?
Yeah, you're going to talk about it and you're going to feel good. But that always, a month later, you're going to talk about it again. You're going to go, there's something wrong, something's slipping, and you know it. This is kind of how depression starts. It feels like you're getting there, but you know you're not actually getting there. So with these people, they're people that not only do they talk about it, they immediately go to marching with it.
You also have people within probably even that 40 at PMI where they are just doing it, people, right? But they won't talk about it at all. And then there's a chemistry imbalance a little bit where you're like, they are great. They have a great product. They actually do great work. They just don't get along with anybody, right? And so then there's almost a calibration happening in what I'm hearing you say, where it's like, hey, it's not all talking, it's not all doing. There's actually a balance of that requires a really intentional investment of both.
Yeah, it's sad to watch the ones that are such great mechanics, because you need some charisma and you need some connection to make the relationship go. I mean, they're great at what they do. and they don't even realize it that they're doing that. But we need them to basically show up and improve their charisma, improve their personality style a little bit. That way, they're connective at the table, not just capable.
So a shift, just to model a little bit of what we're talking about. Every time that you and I have met over the last few years, I always ask you a question, and it's a question to really get things started, which is, what's taking up the most in your case, because you're a thinker, what's taking up the most mental real estate? If I was talking to a feeler, I'd be like, hey, what's taking up the most emotional real estate, right? So I lead with what I know about you, right? And so I'm going to go down a list of essentially checking in with our people, right? What makes a leader worth following is having a roadmap for talking and doing, right? And so we want to essentially follow a roadmap and checking in with our people and going, hey, what's going on in our world, and how do we go from talking to doing? So I wanted to ask you, what's taking up the most mental real estate for you?
Before we shift into that,
Please.
When we start to confront people with their downside, unfortunately, 60, 70, 80% of the time, they feel like you're getting on them or you don't like them. It's like, no, the greatest love I could have is helping you with your weakness. But this becomes a huge problem all the time, because if I start pushing on them, like if, for example, if I have a very capable mechanic, I'm thinking right now of someone who's an incredible mechanic at PMI who has very little personality. But man, they're incredible, and everybody knows they're incredible. I mean, if you look at them technically, everybody's like, that's a 99% guy right there. But they're like, I don't like him. I don't like to work with him. He's angry. He's difficult, but he's super capable. So when we start to confront that, I had to do this 2 or 3 months ago with a couple people at PMI. I had to tell them, it's like, man, I already know you, I already love you, I already admire you, but I'm going to spend the next hour and a half trying to sell you on this conversion of your personality style, because you got so much right, but what's killing you is your connectivity. So we have to, with people, when we start to push back on them, they have to understand we're trying to build you out. We're not trying to hurt you. But so many times it's like, you don't like me, you're being mean to me. No, I'm the best friend you could ever have, because I'm basically confronting your illusion, right? Okay, so to your point as a thinker.
I want to add to that, because it's helpful. I've been lucky enough to be introduced to a couple of really interesting consultants. Okay, they're either doing stuff for the English Parliament, like doing consulting, coaching work with those guys, or they've set in with like past sitting presidents, and they have the 4 C's that you and I have, which is competence, character, chemistry, and credibility, right? So we've been operating out of those 4 C's, both of them, without knowing each other, have 2 more C's, and I caught that pattern. And the other 2 C's are commitment and capacity. So they essentially took our flywheel, which is communication, relationships, alignment, which is commitment, execution, and capacity. They extracted the 2 things from the flywheel, and then they put them into the trust factor. So they essentially said character, chemistry, credibility, competence, and then they added commitment and capacity to the trust. And so David is his name, one of the guys, he goes, I look at my wheel, my C wheel is what he calls it. He goes, make sure that I am looking for these 6 things in an interview. Now he goes, he's got a sheet metal company in Kentucky. And he goes, you would think that I wouldn't do the interviews for people coming into my company. He's got a couple hundred, person company. And he goes, but I do. He goes, because I'm here.
Does the interviews?
He does all the
Oh,
interviews.
yes, so do I.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he's like, but I'm looking for these C's every time as they're telling me their story, another commonality. And as we're just, honestly, I used to have interviews. He goes, like interview questions. He's like, that's an illusion. He goes, it doesn't matter what the questions are. He goes, what matters is that I understand if they have, and I'll read all 6 C's just as a way to make sure that, because we're talking about doers and technicians, or we're talking about talkers and thought leaders, and going, hey, what's the balance? We're looking for these. We're looking for competence. Can you do the job? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you have a proven track record? Right, that's the doers. They're trading on that. The pioneers, the guardians, they're trading on competence. Credibility. Is it relevant to me? Are you able to understand the complexity of my reality and design a bespoke solution that helps me achieve my goals? I think about Tom understanding your story, understanding PMI, understanding the different aspects and companies that PMI is made up of, right? That's credibility. It's somebody that really understands your technical world, right? So that's credibility. Credibility and competence. People don't understand the difference in the words if these words are new to them or if they've never stopped to think about them. Competence is being able to actually get it done, right? To be able to execute, whereas credibility is, do you understand the ins and outs of this industry or of this person or of this team, right? Then some people trade on character, right? Your nurturers, your creatives, they're going to trade on, are you a person of integrity? Are you for me or are you for yourself? Right? So they're going, hey, are you a person of integrity? Are you who you say you are? And then chemistry, which is your connectors, your extroverted types. Do I like you? Do I connect with you and enjoy spending time with you? Right? Then the last two, which is the add-on now, is commitment. Do you stay engaged when things get hard? Are you PMI, ride or die? Are you this family, ride or die? Is there commitment? I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, hey, you and I, he's in Ohio, I'm here. And I was like, you and I have all the C's, but I'm not committed to your church. I don't go there every Sunday. I'm not committed to your community because I don't live, in that part of Canton, But I was like, but you got all my other C's. I'm just not ride or die your stuff, right? And I was like, and it makes a big difference. I was like, even though we're friends, we're sort of living parallel lives. We're not in it together. But man, when you're committed to the same team, the same company, the same neighborhood, the same, there's a different level of affinity when we're like, hey, we're in it together for the long haul, right? And then the last one is capacity, which is, can you consistently deliver on what you've promised? Capacity also is, there's a piece of this that's potential, right? Like, do you see the build out that person is and who they could be and the capacity that they're going to have right now and long term, right? I mean, it's something that you see in people all the time is vision for who people are becoming. Right?
Yeah, and that capacity, those are really cool. That capacity is very important because if you start to become overwhelmed, you lose the selling of the joy piece. It's interesting to watch because there's some busy people at PMI, and when I compare my subordinates and their list, you can very quickly look at, there's a leader, and you take a look at their list, you can tell there's a leader present because they got like 97 things on their list, not 3. It's very quick. You can in Power Mechanical, we have people that we randomly have them send a picture of their agenda over to me so I can kind of see, are they lazy and slothy with that agenda or are they aggressive with it? But what happens is you start to lose your joy as you get busy. And this is a very important thing, and relates to being a Christian. What is it? I think you and I have talked about this, and you pointed this out to me. I mean, the expectation the Lord has for us is that we may be crucified, but we remain joyful. And this is the example of serving in business, because once you get really, really tired, you're going to start to pull back. And it's like I have 250 lines in the water this morning. Like 250, if we use a fishing term, there's 250 lines in the water this morning. Most people are like, I got 5 in the water. I'm really like, if I'm an Enneagram 1, so to speak, it's like, I got the most perfect 5 fishing lines in the water, and they are just right, and I'm really watching them. Well, you only have 5 lines in the water. But I have 250 lines in the water, and I'm kind of laughing and still joyful. That really, really matters, because most people, when they start to get tired, their tiredness shows in their connectivity or lack thereof. I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed out. You see it? So that thing at the end matters, because if I see people falling down like that, I pull back and don't delegate to them. I'm like, well, that's great, because instead of you giving me 10 more things, I have 10 less things. It's like, no, you have to understand, the person sitting next to you has 100 things to do, and you have 10. You're not running the same race, my friend. And that's going to show up really bad later. You think you're winning, or you think you're equal to the person sitting next to you, and really they got 100 lines in the water because they're not freaked out, and you got 10. So we got to keep people, just be patient. It's okay to have 100 lines in the water that aren't perfect, let's call it in oneness, so to speak, because you still have them in the water. You have to learn to fail a little bit versus have it be perfect 10 catches is not the same as getting like 78 catches that are messy.
So Rick, to your point about people in the same meeting, one person having 100 things on their list and a person having 10 things on their list. There's a tribal story or insider language, which is the word piling at PMI, and it's the idea with the piling. Is a really interesting idea, especially for Hampton Roads, because there's pilings everywhere here.
Yeah.
And if you
Tidewater.
So you look at a wood piling on a dock, and they might be sticking out 6 feet out of the water, all of them, But in this case, one piling might have 100 things on their list, and they go 100 feet down. And one piling has 10 things on their list, they go 10 feet down. And that's the interesting thing with a piling. We're all these people sticking 6 feet out of the ground, but we have different levels of depth to all of us.
And for those of us that are leaders, there's an illusion there because they all look the same, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
So you have to start talking about that. Then they start to emerge as a deeper piling compared to a more superficial piling. Doesn't make either one bad. It's just the early stages of development. But that deep piling, that person that's willing to go in the darkness and do the work and stick with it and number it 1 to 100 and grind, that's what you're looking for right there. You're better off starting. I found that you're better off starting with the grinder and getting them the attachment of personality as you are somebody overly selling personality trying to become a grinder, because the grinding thing, most people don't want to do that. So if you start off with the grind and with the list, it's easier for you to get the personality than it is, I think, for you to get the grinder. So these are all, these when people are talking, like we talk about the illusions, we're letting all of them run. They're all exposing themselves. They're all declaring what they're doing, and then we come and do a ride along with that. That makes sense. But the ones that will do the grinding, and the one that do the list, and the one that do the details, and encumber themselves, we're looking for them because we want to load them up, and then we want to pay them accordingly, and not just load them up. I don't like using words like that. We load people up so they can grow and they also can prosper, not just load them up. So
there's a all adult learning happens through failure, or it happens through hardship, right? And so one of the one truth, if we've been doing the 6 laws and the 3 myths over the last few episodes, the one truth is that all growth happens through discomfort. All growth, right? And so the piling is being given an opportunity to be built out, to have 10 on their list, to have 20 things on their list, to have 50 things on their list, 100 things on their list. And then ultimately for them to begin to create their own lists. They're not being delegated the list. For the most part, they have their list almost, let's say 80%, 70% of the way there. They come to you, you give them that extra 30%, just depending on where we're going as an organization, right? And so pilings that are able to lead themselves. It's a huge build out. Now, then you have pilings that are able to actually have a list for themselves and a list for their people and lists for their people below them, right? But there's a delegation and a doing and a talking of tasks here again, right?
Oh, that whole thing goes to hell in a hurry with what you just said. Once it goes from, you can tell when their good leaders are present because the people are encumbered with lists. And they're not encumbered in a bad way. It's like we have an agreement that this is where we're headed and you're going to take care of these things. But as we go from a me to a them, what we start to see is when it goes from a them to their subordinates, there's quite a reduction there. And that's where we got to build that out because they've bought into my gospel. They bought into my leadership. They bought into working with me and basically taking my directives. But they got to become a person that can enter their space and then come up with their own directives and their own guidance, their own vision for their teammates. But that right there, that's when business where you can't basically scale it. Because us leaders can have all this vision, but what good is it if you can't delegate it? So this is a crazy thing where everybody says, yeah, I'm going to be like this X and that X. Well, you can't X it until you can get that fundamental done with those people. And that chart that you have, I forget what that chart is called, where it shows the personality type and how their leadership style is, where to like be the me, then my
leaders define culture.
Yeah. Oh my God, that thing right there. If you'd had that for me about 38 years ago, I'd had a lot simpler life because I had some people that were kind of rotten or weren't really working out that I had to go with because they had no choice. But that indicates there's a problem there. I would have worked on it differently or maybe terminated them sooner than I did.
You're overlaying the information or the data to, hey, we're talking about tasks today and the level and depth of list. But then you're saying, hey, how we go about completing that task is the culture. And so if we go about completing that task with a high support, high challenge way, the greenhouse is green. There is actually life. People are being empowered. There's opportunity. You feel that the leader is for you, and they're really hard on you, but they're also setting up really big tasks and stretch goals, but they're also staying with you long enough for you to understand how to do the work. There's this back and forth, ebb and flow, support and challenge that's happening. Everything else, right? Low support or low challenge, and the discalibration of that ultimately leads to the plants withering, the people withering, the lists getting longer, but it feeling more and more like domination, or the lists getting shorter and it feeling like protection.
I've been plagued with that my whole life because I'll load people up because, hey, you're here and you're working, you're getting paid, but you can only load in the right amount, and that right there has plagued me for years. You got to be careful you give it to them. You can't give out equally. You give out in different ways based on person's personality style, and you got to regulate that carefully, because before I just gave it all out equally, and it never worked out that way, because you can hurt people or create separation from you. And it wouldn't hurt for us, Eddie. I don't know if you can do it. We haven't done it so far in the Leaders Furnace, but maybe show that slot. I call them the maps. Mm-hmm. Maybe show that map in our presentation where they can see that the thing where it shows the different structure. Mm-hmm. That to me is an incredible, and that right there. That is one of the most important tools that I look at, because it kind of shows where people are headed. But maybe we could even insert that as an example of that. Then also show the one where it shows high support, high challenge. Maybe that makes sense. In our meeting, maybe pull it up as a slide so people can see it.
Yeah, you got it. Support, challenge, matrix, and then going into leaders define culture and seeing what those greenhouses look like.
Yeah, you if you don't know that. Very few people I know that. I didn't know it, and I don't know of really anybody else besides what is in your system with Giant. I've never seen that before, but when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would have had that a long time ago. It would have saved me a lot of pain. So yeah, maybe we can share that with the...
Of course, yeah, we'll do it. So Rick, as a way to land the plane today, I wanted to do just a really simple way for our people to check in with their family, their team, other people from other departments, or even sometimes other organizations. Depends on the level of relationship that we have with people, right? So one of the questions that we ask is a real estate question, which is, hey, what's taking up either the most mental or emotional real estate in your life? What would that be for you today?
Okay, so with me and my personality style, thinker, okay, head type, 6. So a lot of people that are 6s, okay, kind of have this battle with fear. I don't have a battle with it. I embrace it. So to answer your question, all I do this morning is, what's making me nervous? What's scaring me? What is fearful? That becomes the list. And there's 18 things over there in a notepad about 40 feet from me that list all 18. So I'm actually using the fear as a tool, because these are things that are kind of bothering me. I'm like, there's a loose end here that we delivered a boiler last night to New York City. A boiler weighed 130,000 pounds in downtown New York City, and it couldn't get through a gate. So this morning, I need to know how we're doing on that. Adam called me last night at like 1 o'clock. He said, won't go through the gate. And we're out in the middle of the road with this 80-foot long water tube boiler, and that's a problem. So this morning, I'm already thinking about that. Hey, Adam, how you doing? What's going on? Mm-hmm. So I go through and make a list of all those, and I work on those. And then after that, it's going to be what the plan was. As I come out of Saturday and Sunday to prepare for the week, there's a plan for Monday. So I'm going to go back and look at the Monday plan to make sure I'm not talking, that I'm doing off the list. And then I'm going to take my fear and then use my fear as a tool. Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening in my head right now.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. So that is often what we're saying when we're coming into meetings. We're going, hey, what are you bringing into the room, right? It's whatever's taking up the most mental or emotional real estate. The second thing we do in a check-in would be the peace index, which would be, hey, there's 5 P's that essentially make up the majority of our life. There's different authors that have different areas of life, but we've essentially just simplified it down to 5, which is first one would be purpose. How is your purpose in this season? If you had to rate it 1 to 100, what's the story around that?
Purpose is pretty clear. And purpose, with my personality style, purpose matters, because if not, I'll get off to the left and off to the right because of ADHD. So purpose matters for me. Purpose today on a scale of 1 to 100 is 95. It's very clear. I know why I'm here. I know why I'm here for the next 30 years. Very purposeful. So 95 on that.
95. Okay. How about provision? Do you have what you need? Not what you want, but what you need in order to live the life that you want, right? How's provision?
This is the personal life or the business life?
Let's do personal life. It's a personal check-in.
It's 95.
Mm-hmm.
It's all. It's been hard to get here, but now it's like, if you work hard enough, happiness comes, and things that make you happy come along. So I'm just like, on my way into work this morning, like there were some things happening that are like, I'm arriving. I mean, it's like, it's good. It can't get any better than it currently is. But I worked 64 years to prepare for today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really good stuff going on there. So very high score.
Nice. Let me do a more challenging one. How about personal health? When we say personal health, it's mentally, it's physically, and it's spiritually.
No, that pissed me off a little bit. Okay, but see, that's why it's so good, because I'm out of balance.
Yeah.
And what's happening is, since I've done really good on the provisions and all that, I've just basically said, if I don't get to exercise and pay attention to health, I let it slide. So I've already this week put it back in granny gear, and it's like I exercised so far every single day this week, and then I have to balance my eating and my drinking with that exercise. So this week is a very committed week for that, because I've let that go.
Mm-hmm.
I need to weigh 10 pounds less, maybe 15, to maintain my health at 64, 74, 84, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there is slipping. That's going to get a 25%, and I need a big kick in the ass on that one. But I almost let it slip yesterday because I was so busy, but I got up and did it anyway. And it felt so good to let it slip.
Mm-hmm.
And something as simple as I finished my recorder and I exercised before I left in the morning. It was just, the whole day was
Mm-hmm.
better, because I felt like I'd overcome something. So that's sagging,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm overcommitting to that.
Mm-hmm. It's sagging, but you're trending up.
Yeah, it's got to get fixed. It is. I can't just give it all to work and all of that. It's got to be the physical balance has to be better than it is. I traded that, and now I'm regrouping on it.
Mm-hmm. Our next P is place. A mix of where your personal body, your physical body abides most of the time. So your office, your living room, your bedroom, your backyard, wherever it is that you spend most of your time in your truck. What's your place look like for you? What would you say you would rate your place?
Well, as a 6, place has a lot to do with how much trust is in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm encountering people I can't trust, or very frustrating people, that affects that a lot. But I've got 50 people in my trust club right now so it's a very high score.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm encountering some people that are angry and direct and all that stuff, which I will as I go out in the world. But overall, that's 90.
90. And then last one is people. Kind of backed into that one here at the end. So people is the top 5 to 10 people in your life, right? How much peace do you have in those relationships right now?
Well, first thing comes to mind is I had a couple of interviews I'm super excited about, and there it is again, like the fence guy. When you have an interview, and the interview when you're done with it makes you smile. So instead of it being, oh wow, I've got some welding to do, and you're a welder, and we're not smiling, but I will pay you and you will weld, but we won't have much of a relationship. Not really. Those are okay, and we got plenty of that going on at PMI. But man, I had one interview and I hired this guy. I'm super excited about the potential. And I met him, high character. He checks a lot of those C's we spoke of earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, man, I think I got me a new piling out there. Okay. And then I had another interview the other day. Travis knew of this lady. He's like, Rick, you got to meet her. Rick, you got to meet her. And she already has a job. And he said, you got to meet her. I'm like, well, I'd like to meet her. And by saying that, if you ever, and we're going to get to your question in a second.
No, you're fine.
But I live a strange life, and strange relative to the world's illusions.
Yes.
Because it's actually not as strange. It actually is calibrated quite well. I think the world's more strange than I am, but
Yes.
the world thinks I'm strange.
It's countercultural by design.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just interesting to participate in all of it. You're just like, I'm strange. I'm like, well, it's strange to, at the age that you're at, to be where you're at, because you should have been so much further there, Sparky. Makes sense, but you're talking big and doing small. That looks depressing. I'm speaking as if Sparky's sitting across from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, but it sure does sound good there, Sparky. But man, it ain't as good as it sounds. You are behind, cowboy. Okay, have a good day. So
That's one of the illusions is the Bible says, do not conform to the patterns of this world. And as I was listening to a sermon recently, the pastor was saying, hey, it's the patterns of our own life. He's like, we live by our own tendencies and patterns. He goes, and he's saying, hey, the world has tendencies and patterns. We have sin in our life. We are living into tendencies and patterns. And he's saying, hey, be aware of your tendencies and patterns. Stop living into those tendencies and patterns.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity for all of us. I don't have to worry about Rick's tendencies and patterns. I worry about my tendencies and patterns and not living into the tendencies and patterns of this world, right? There's the flip side of that, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's right. That is like, we're balancing. This meeting might be about the leader's furnace, but it's got a heavy balance on the relationship with our Lord. These things all tie together. Each one is tied together, and man, that just hits it again. But I might, as I use the word sparky, that's kind of a word I use when I'm messing with some people. But it's just like, I like Sparky, but he's talking big and doing small. And it's amazing to watch people like that in the meeting, the pride level they put out. You're just like, you're losing, you're not winning. You have no idea. That might look good to others, and it creates a good image, and it might make you feel good, but it's not good. So that's just a thing that's out there, and so they got to become self-aware, and they got to go to work on their stuff, because a lot of people, it's natural for people to want to move towards comfort, and what happens is all the stuff we're doing is about moving into the uncomfortable.
Yes.
So Sparky over
That's
here,
where transformation happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He might be like wanting to be comfortable, and it's like, if you want to be comfortable, there's a price to pay for that. We want to go do everything that's uncomfortable today. That fear list, I need all 18 of those done today.
Yeah.
I don't have to do them, because tomorrow there'll be 36. And the following day there'll be a whole other batch going in, see it. But I need to address that where most people are avoidant to it. So
the full picture is, do not conform to the pattern of this world. Let's just put Sparky right here as the king of living into his own pattern, being lazy and saying, this is just the way I am, right?
Right.
Versus being
So much
transformed by the renewing of your mind.
man, absolutely, man.
That's the flip side of it. Now, we're all Sparky on any given day.
That's Paul, right? Is that Paul speaking that?
Yes.
Yeah, his story there, it is the deeds. He's such a bad dude, and now he's speaking like this, and he's still speaking this to us. You see it, how it lives on. It's like, thank you, Paul.
Have I ever told you Saul wanted death to all Christians? And it's funny because when God redeems him to Paul, he still wants death to all Christians. Like his fight, intensity, pioneerness is still like, you should all die physically. And then he becomes Paul, and he's like, you should all still die. You know what I mean? And everybody's like, are you transformed or not transformed? And ultimately what he was saying is, I want you to die to your physical bodies because you're Christians and I don't agree with what you're doing. Then he gets clotheslined by Jesus. He has this encounter with him, and then his message is still the same, but now he's like, you die to your flesh. Not because I want you to die physically, but because I want you to die to the pattern of this world now. But he never changes it's almost like God was always like, your calling is to help people come and die, right? And he's like, I got you. And he did it the wrong way, and then he redeems that vision to the right way of having people come and die, which is, I wonder how much of that is true for us on any given day of going, hey, we just went about the calling that we have on our lives in a different way. We're meant to use all the weapon systems and all those tools for good, right?
Yeah, it's true every day. It's true today. So it's one of those, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jesus, for the provision of just that alone. It's like that's today. It's every day, because we're all living that illusion. There's an illusion there of, make sense? So
people, what would you rate it?
Well, let me finish my travel story.
Okay, cool.
We're people, and notice how excited I am. I just want to hold on to that. Hey, I got a couple potential new employees. Potential, and not just employees, but maybe people in my life that could make it to my 1% club, right? Because both these people could. Maybe someday they could grow up, be a Tom Noon for me. So, but they won't make it to that level. But they can aspire to do that, but that actually won't happen for them. Maybe, but doubtful. So, because that's a different level. But
it depends on whether they transformed by the renewing of the mind.
Will they go look in the mirror and get to work on it?
Will they get after it? Yes.
That's right. Will they go look in the mirror and get at it? Because even with Tom Noon, Tom has a dark side story. He's like, he's a bad guy. He'll sit and talk about it occasionally, and he kind of smiles. He knows where he's from, and he's kind of laughing at the evil because he remembers back in the day because he's like, yeah, I was that. Now he has to be a good boy, but it's just not as simple. It just doesn't do this for him. You can just tell he could fall back into the pattern and do that stuff, but he tries not to every day.
Yes.
And I like that about him because it's just the bad side. That element is always right. That energy of, I like that.
It's a choice every day for all of us.
Oh my God! I mean, for me, it's like that. That's like I'm riding that line daily. I mean, my stuff can run off the rails in a really big hurry. It's like there's some significant evil in there. I got to really keep an eye on that. A lot of energy. So, so it's nice to be afflicted, and then feel the affliction that other people feel, so we can walk them through their affliction. Tom has it. I've got it. A lot of people have it. It's like it's there. It's like we can get crazy, and then bad things will happen for us. We got to stay out of crazy. Very expensive. A lot of people live that crazy life. So, but back to the interviews. And Travis told me about this lady, and I heard about her, and he said, "Yeah, you're gonna really like her, Rick." So I meet her, and she's working for another company, and I interview her, and she's got good personality. And she's talking a little bit, and she's telling me about her service to others, and she'd worked with this other guy that was a visionary. And she was kind of very close and took care of things. And that visionary person had sold his business and had given her this huge amount of money, which he didn't have to give her. But when he sold his business, and we're not talking 1,000 or 10,000. We're talking a big number here. And she didn't really talk. I had to pull that out of her a little bit. And she's like, "Yeah, when I left there, he just came back and just gave this to me." I'm just like, mm-hmm. She must have done something for him that was above and beyond the Friday paycheck. Yeah, her servant was incredible. He sold his business, but he still maintained a relationship with us. We're talking about that a little bit, and we're going through all these things. And then she does, man. The big thing comes up next. She's just like, "Yeah, I'm in a company where it just doesn't feel like the rest of the team is pulling their weight." And I think I'm doing more than I should, but I just don't want to slow down. I don't want to be a lesser version of myself. And just right now, see her, she's disclosing her personality. She's got people around her that are getting away with things, and they're not pulling their weight, and they're kind of being red and yellow-ish, maybe sneaky, maybe lazy, maybe not thorough, maybe bitching, whining, complaining, whatever it is. But she notices her difference. She's green. And I articulate that to her. She's like, when I said red, yellow, green, she's just like, "That's exactly what it is, Rick." Well, I said, "Well, here we have a map for that." It's like you're around yellows and reds, and you're green, and you feel there's a problem. You can't really get the reds and yellows up to green level, so therefore to maintain greenness is very expensive for you. And you could tell it's not fair. She's like, "It isn't fair." I said, "Well, come over here. Imagine me in that world. I'm fully aware of that. We separate the wheat from the chaff here." I mean, it's like you come over here and be red if you want to, because you sure as hell didn't tell me you were red in the interview. So I'm not overly nice to you. You in the interview, we smiled and laughed, and you used all your charisma on me, and I said, "Yeah, buddy, let's bring you on." Then I found out when you got here, you're a bit of a deceiver, or you're lazy, or you're angry, or whatever. Well, she's encountered that, but she's holding her green. That girl's going to come to work here, and she's going to do big things. And you see that, but. So what this is the joy and the excitement and all that comes from the fact that I'll have another person in my life. Number one is I like and respect their story. I think I'll like and respect them. Now I'll want to basically give them things to do, but also have a relationship with them that isn't just transactional on Friday. It's transactional through a lifetime, through a career.
Nature, nurture, choice, right? We say nature is their personality, which is what you see right away. And then, nurture is their story, which is what you're hearing about them, right? So you're getting both in an interview to the best that you can. You're looking for the C's, right? Those 6 C's. And then ultimately you're going, all right, what choices are they going to make going forward? Or what choices have they made up to this point, based on that nature, nurture, and choice? You're always looking for that as you're hiring different people, right? Yes. So what number would you put on people?
Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so just to finish it out,
I like it.
The whole future is based on these people.
Yes.
The whole future, my whole freedom in the future, my ability. If I have 25 goals, it doesn't matter if I don't have them, because every time I do a goal with a red or yellow, it's depressing. It's when every time if I work with a lot of reds and yellows, and I go across the JRB, about 3 miles past the JRB is an ABC store. And when I work with reds and yellows, I visit that store a lot. You know what I'm saying? They have a really nice moonshine there that I like. Why? Because they're a pain in the ass. I mean, I get through it each day, but they're miserable. They're difficult. They're angry. I got to watch them. I got to check on them all the time. Hell, I don't want to watch and check. People don't realize that micromanagement is self-inflicted. Everybody thinks it's the boss's fault. No, we don't trust you. We're going to micromanage the shit out of you. Of course we are. We don't trust you. It's the worst thing ever. It's bad for the supervisor and bad for the subordinate. You see that? So this is a tribal story that goes on. It's like, look, if we're checking on you a lot, you need to understand, you think you're frustrated, we're thinking about getting rid of you. I mean, you got to fix the relationship because the trust score is very low. That's why we're watching. Well, my perception is this lady here probably won't need much watching. She has a better moral compass. She's green. But that thing, it just as we kind of stop the meeting for a second, and one of the biggest things we're talking about today, at least from my perspective, you're producing some things, I'm producing some things, but I just want people from the Leaders Furnace to realize, if you're out there and you're green, and you're with some yellows and reds, understand who you are with them. And that stuff's environmental. What happens is you might be the flag waver of that company, but they're going to load you up because they don't delegate to the incompetents, do they? Of course not. They keep delegating to the greens. That's why the greens have the huge list and the reds and yellows get away with it. And they're not winning, they're losing, the reds and yellows are. So all it is it's a really big story because, you know, a lot of people that come to me from the shipyard that have been there for 15 or 20 years and they're like, I got to leave. It's not right now working for me because there's a culture change happening. And they're like, 4 people are sitting over here laughing at me because I'm working really hard doing the right thing. And they're going, it all pays the same. And the green person, who's having the reds and yellows, talk to him about, slow down, why do you work so hard? Because we're getting away with doing less. The green person holds that line while the others think they're getting away with it. But the greens want to separate from that so to speak, that environment of reds and yellows.
We've overlaid data over red, yellow, and green, essentially saying, hey, reds are divisive. They're ruiner leaders if they're leaders, right? Yellows are usually negative in their impact or positive in their impact, but they're reactively positive. They're not proactively positive. So the yellow, you have negative and positive in there, and they usually are user leaders if they're in it. But when you have a green, they're multipliers. They're literally force multipliers or people developers, and they have a culture of X, you know. So as technicians, they're green and they do their job, and they're doers and talkers and doers and talkers, and they're in that calibration. But as leaders, and a green leader, you call them green because it's so encouraging. It's right. It's another level. The last level, which is they're just
people you just want them in your life.
They're
not employees. They're like life partners.
Yeah. That's it. And they're people who you're like, they're literally developing everything around them, or you see things flourishing around them, right? They're green.
It's almost sad. I have a spirit for certain things, and my energy is one where you'll see it pop out with the Sparkies and a few other things. But it's just sad to see the yellows and the reds not prosper. They kind of know it's not working out. They don't know exactly what to do about it. What does Jesus say right before he dies? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. The same thing's happening right there. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. But they're building out a miserable situation, and I don't like it, so I speak of it. But at the end of the day, it's more unfortunate than it is. I hate to see it because it's just sad. And what happens is that group of reds, when we look at, it's interesting to watch how everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Well, you can't be a millionaire until you're a thousandaire. I mean, it's incredible to watch the madness of all that. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Well, you can't even behave well in the thousandaire class. So why talk about millionaire when you can't even basically save up $1,000 or $5,000? So there's 5 groups there, and it's like everybody wants to go right to the group 5. And so on a scale of 1 to 100, the articulation of that is the 20%. The first 20% of the scale of 100 is this red zone. And I'm from that. My family's from it. They're plagued with just anger and dysfunction and not understanding themselves. And then addiction comes because there's pain. Mm-hmm. You know, that you got to get out of this bottom 20% group, because it's the group in the message. And you got to get away from the message. And then you graduate to what I call the next group, which is the 21 to 40% group. And now you start to have savings, you start to have reserves, because in America, if you can't save up and basically invest in stock or a 401k or in your own home, you can't be wealthy. So so you got to get in out of that first 20%, get to at least to the second 20%.
Yeah, this wealthy is not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's just about the peace index that you can have in your
it's
life.
about yourself. It's a self journey. But if you stay in that bottom 20% with those reds, it's hard to get out of it because there's just things going on that are just not conducive to success. So you get to this next level. I call it zone 2, which is like 21 to 40%. And then there you start to realize you don't hang out with that, and you don't behave. You quit doing some of the habits that go with that. You're less angry. You're more intentional. You start to work on yourself. And then you become, so to speak, you're no longer in the red zone. You're kind of moving into this middle yellow zone. But you're slowly working your way to this thing called millionaire, whatever that is. The highest level of that's going to be in America. There's billionaires. I'm not making it to that class, and I'm not bothered by that. That's for someone else. They're running their own race. I'm not going to do what Bezos does and everybody else does. I have no intention of doing it. I don't think I could even do it. So I don't worry about that. They're the top 20%, but I'm not saying I deserve that or I want to be that. I want to be in that, what I call that, if there's 5 zones articulating it from 0 to 100%, the zone that I'm in is in the 60 to 80. I'm in the millionaire class, and I'm from trailer parkish environments, but I made it out. And that red zone is terrible. It is so difficult. It's the message, it's the behaviors, it's have fun, get high, don't sustain relationships, can't keep a job. It's just so difficult. You got to get out of that red zone. And we're kind of extending just for a second. I got these 2 people coming at me flaming green. This is a relative story, but the 5 sectors of wealth is a conversation. And what happens is in America, if you can't even own your own home and have a 401k, you'll never be wealthy. That's like the minimum thing. And America's it's all available, but you got to get to there. Then next thing you know, you start to have savings. Then you have the ability to own some stock and get invested in the stock market. Then you become this millionaire class of person. So the red, yellow, green, and those 5 zones tie together. But you got to get out of red, not because Rick told you to, but because it's just a tough, unhappy place to be at. That gets you over to yellow and green.
I've never heard you elaborate it this way, but essentially it's 0 to 20, right, is $1,000 saved, and 20 to 40 is $10,000 saved. 40 to 60 is $100,000 saved, and then essentially the zone that you're in is $1 million saved, right? And then $1 billion saved, right?
Yeah.
And these are 5 categories of going, hey, if you're red or yellow, you have the pattern and tendency set up to be in an infinity loop, right? That just keeps you inside of your zone versus actually breaking that pattern, being green, and realizing that a lot of this stuff starts with you. How you lead yourself, how you go about being a doer and a talker together, how you calibrate, support, and challenge the culture you create around you.
Yeah, it all ties together. And
Yes.
this is just a way of saying, if you want to equate it to money and success, you and I are talking about the fundamentals that build up to this, but everybody wants to go right to that. And it's like you can't get to that because you're hung up in red or yellow. And you don't mean to. It's not a blame thing. It's the fact it's an awareness thing. You got to get to work on where you're at, and don't talk about it. People all the time are talking about the billionaires should give away their money. You won't learn anything if they give you their money. You have to go through. Earlier you spoke of the hardship. It's all about the hardship.
Build out.
It's the relationships. About the build out. It's not about rich people give us their money. We got to go become rich at the relative level. There's nothing wrong with being in zone 2. It's a wonderful space. You're at least not red. The message is different. You're starting to have your own message, your own set of goals in that what I call that 21 to 40% range, where you're saving up $10,000 or $25,000. We got to get everybody to there, because then you start to become independent and realize there's different people to kind of listen to. There's green messages and there's red messages. Which one are you listening to each day? You got to get into them every day. I did it again this morning for 30 minutes on the way in. I'm listening to green language. I'm listening to, it was a religious message this morning. And it got me ready for today. It's green. It's pulling me towards green. Because otherwise, if I listen to some fun music or some cool music or whatever, it might pull me down a little bit. But I wanted to listen to something that pulled me up, not pulled
Trading
me down.
up, yes.
Yeah, trading up. I'm super excited about the issue of the 2 new
Yes.
employees. The 2 new employees will change my life. It's all about the new employees. My whole life is that. But back to your point, it's more than just the new employees. It's the new employees. It's about PMI people. It's about my people at home. So, and that section is called what?
The people.
The people part. The people part. Some weeks, I'm a little bit tough on that, because I kind of get like I'm either happy or depressed. I'm 7-ish when I spend time here. I'm either like over enthusiastic about the people I'm around, or I get depressed. I have trouble being in the middle. So this week is very green there. I'm excited. I've got some good things going on. There's not bad things happening, so to speak, with people at PMI or at home. So this week's a good week, but I'm very sensitive to that because I tend to like either be red or green.
Yes, it's always a peace index is always a snapshot, right? So what would you put it today?
Today's 87.
87, right? So we take all 5 of those numbers, the 95, the 95, the 90, the 25, and the 80, and the 87. And then, right, shame and pride.
Yes.
And so we end up at 78.4, right? That's a snapshot of today, right, of July 1st, 2026, of saying, hey, on July 1st, you were at a 78% peace index. Your people around you, the impact of your life, right? You're living out of that level of peace, right? Last question, and we'll close here today, right? And we'll close
Today, just real quick, I'm thankful today.
Tell me.
That score is very high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to stop for a second. I have one element that's plaguing me, and it's dragging the whole thing down. But for the last 2 days, I've influenced my downside. And it's kind of a strange joy that's happening. Why? Because I've been plagued by it. Because I was all in on taking PMI up the hill, and I gave up some things to do that. But now I got to go back and clean that up. But it feels so good to be working on it. So today is, thank you, Lord. Thank you. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together. Thank you. Thank you for helping me with my 25% because I was not paying attention there. But it just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm aware of all the elements of it.
Yes.
I'm thankful for my high scores, and I'm kind of ashamed of my low score, but ashamed enough to take action. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. We distinguish guilt and shame, right? A little guilt that says, hey, I do feel bad. Maybe I should do something about it. Shame is something's wrong with me. So guilt, you know what I mean? We encourage, right? Pull that guilt and go, all right, we'll do something about it. It's probably something nagging at me, an urge or a nudge to go ahead and do something about it. Peace comes from our index, the 5 areas. But hope is how much peace we have for tomorrow. Right? It's the borrowed peace. It's hope. It's how much peace we're expecting to have tomorrow. Right? So we'll end with the question of going, hey, how hopeful, based on your score and where you're at, and you already kind of answered it. You beat me to the punch. How much hope do you have today for tomorrow?
There's so many things today that are going to go wrong and mess up. But I got it 100 lines in the water. And the hope is extraordinary. Like, just blessed. The awareness, the people in my life, the trajectory of where I'm at, the 2 new people that are potentially inbound. Man, it's awesome. It's so blessed. I could be in a car wreck today, and I could be in a 4-wheeler wreck. That's probably more likely, relating to moonshine. Moonshine and 4-wheelers and me, we have trouble getting along. We have fun up to the point where we don't. That the same thing there it is again with Tom Noon. It's just like riding that edge. Just like, I should not have done that. Got to go visit the trauma unit. The trauma nurses were great. They did a good job on me. but that badness and that goodness tied together. But the hope is very high.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, in the end, there are but 3 things: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest is love. Hope is a big element of that. And for me, as a 6, loving's harder. I don't have a problem with hope. I don't have a problem with faith. But the connected relationships, I spend too much time gauging them and studying them to protect myself. I want to learn to love without all the calculation before I die. I got to overcome the bullshit I came out of as a child and some of the things I've seen in business. I want to be able to love without the calculation. That's the downside of us 6s. Like we're keeping people at bay. You got to stay back. Don't get too close to my heart. I want to be able to before I die, do that well. So
Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be renewed or transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? That's the work we're doing. Yeah. That's what we're in together as we're doing this Leaders Furnace with our friends, listeners, the people that are tuning in. It's the hope, right, that we together can actually discover the illusions, find out the patterns and tendencies, and actually move past that. Right? And so, thank you for your story today. Thanks for teaching us. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Appreciate it.